All right, good evening. Welcome back to Basement Dweller Tabletop. Tonight we're going to talk about a 2,000 point Cryptek Conclave army. So I'm going to start over here on this side of the board. These are my immortal units led by Chronomancers. So these guys are going to be able to use the Chronomancer shoot and scoot ability, but the Cryptek Conclave allows them to add the assault keyword onto their weapons. So what these guys can do is they can move, advance move. That gives them an extra d6 movement. So they're pretty slow. They start off as a 5. So if you give them that 5 plus d6, and then after they shoot, then they can move another 6 because of the Time Splinter Mantle from the Chronomancer. They've also got a 3 plus armor save. They've got the ability to add a couple things with stratagems if they get into a little trouble. They are -1 to hit natively because of the Chronomancer, but you can add an additional keyword to their weapons with a stratagem, untap power. I don't think there's any real good extra ones. Maybe if they're sitting still, you can add heavy onto their weapons so that they get that +1 to hit. Gives them some better accuracy. You can do molecular targeting. That allows them to ignore any hit modifiers or weapon or ballistic skill modifiers and any wound modifiers because they are a Cryptek unit. Then you've got your Microscarab Swarm, one of the stratagems. That's going to give them a 4+ invulnerable save. So any of those are really useful. And also the Potentiality Siphon, if they're sitting on an objective, because they are a Cryptek unit, they can trigger their reanimation protocols. And it's a D3 +1 additional wounds recovered during the phase. So if you're down to just like one guy and the Chronomancer, you could potentially get that whole squad back with your reanimation protocols. Now, if the Chronomancer is by himself, I don't think you can bring any of the rest of the squad back. But please correct me in the comments if that's not correct. It's a lot like other bodyguard units. If the rest of the bodyguard unit is dead and the character has a regen ability, but this is an army-wide ability, so I'm not sure if it applies in this case. So I'm going to move on. So we got 2 squads of those immortals. They're going to be my objective grabbers and my special task completers. They'll be able to do actions. They're small and mobile. Even though most people think they're pretty slow, they should be moving pretty quick. They'll be moving almost as fast as assault marines across the board. Then we got our speedy guys. These guys are my tomb blades. So they are going to be riding around with their devastating weapons. They've actually got the Gauss blasters on them, but they're probably going to be in this army armed with the particle casters because those guys are D6 +3 shots, devastating. And if they're close enough to a Cryptek, which is any one of the, I believe we got 4 in this army, 2 Chronomancers, Plasmancer, and then Oricon Diviner down there. So there's 4 different. Oh, I've got a converted Chronomancer, or Technomancer here. So there's actually 5. If they're within 6 inches of any of those guys, they can potentially be given the anti-infantry 3. So their devastating attacks will wound infantry on 3, but those antis are automatically critical wounds, which means it triggers that devastating ability. So these guys can be shooting out a decent amount of devastating wounds with just 3 of them. A bigger squad would be more effective, especially since you're burning a command point to do it, but I've only got the 3 in my army right now. Might shuffle some stuff around, might look at buying another squad to make this one a 6 strong, but that's how it goes. You play with what you got. And here I've got my Triarch Stalker. He's really just in the army to give them some tough, not super durable, but reasonably durable armor that's going to throw down kind of towards the center and try and hold up and delay some of the maybe heavy infantry or lighter infantry that's floating around the board. He can get tangled up with them. His melee's mediocre, his shooting's not great, and his special ability's not cool, but he is a tough body that can throw around the board. All right, I got 2 of these Cryptek Stalkers. These guys are my anti-tank in the army. They're the core of my anti-tank in the army. And they have got a pretty hefty D6 +1 shots each, strength 14, AP -3, 3 damage. So they're pretty solid anti-tank. They're not quite as good as the Doomsday Arc, but they are significantly cheaper in points, and I'm able to field 2 of them in this army. I got 1 Cryptek Reanimator. He's going to tag along, well, probably with these guys to keep them running a little bit longer, because he adds some bonus reanimation onto them when they do their reanimation rolls. And everything in this army gets that reanimation roll at the beginning of the command phase. And then this is what you're going to see a lot of in your Cryptek Conclave. That's a lot of C words. So these guys are wraiths, Canoptek wraiths. They're still in the process of being painted. They're not done yet, but they've got that kind of base ready to go. They're almost table ready. They need some more gold and green on them, and then I got to do that nice purple and magenta them adding to the new guys. So they're led by a Technomancer. He gives them all kinds of stuff. He gives them a feel no pain. He can help them regenerate more wounds. He makes them a Cryptek unit. So rather than a Canoptek unit, I mean, they're still Canoptek, but they're both Cryptek and Canoptek. So they can do that anti-infantry value on their shooting weapons. And these guys can also get particle casters. Theirs aren't quite as cool. They're a little smaller. They're a flat 3 shots. And they're strength 5, 0 AP, but with that anti-infantry, and that's again an army-wide ability. Every Cryptek unit can give one of those keywords to the weapons in their unit. So these guys can get assault. These guys can get anti-infantry. These guys can get heavy or anti-infantry if they're shooting something really tough, or assault if they need to move quickly. The idea is that each squad can have what they need from that Cryptek Conclave. I've got the Void Dragon in here because he is a deep striker, and I mean they're seeing a lot of play. The various shards of this ton are really knocking it out in the meta, but he has got a really good ranged attack and very good melee attack, again, against vehicles. He's also pretty stout against some mid to heavy infantry. I wouldn't throw him into like a big squad of Terminators or a giant Victrix Guard or anything, but he can really throw his weight around a little bit in the backboard. And because he has that native deep strike, which is a new ability for these guys, then he can be kind of sneaky. You find that 9 inches away from the enemy, drop him in, he can start shooting right away, and then he can start making his way into melee. He doesn't have to weather like 3 turns of shooting or 2 turns of shooting like he would if he started at the back edge of the board with the rest of the army. These guys are objective holders. It's a standard squad of 10 Necron warriors with Gauss flayers. They've got a Plasmancer leading them. Not a whole lot of benefit from the Plasmancer. He gives them a crit hit on 5. They do have lethal on their guns, so it's a little bit of a boost. So every time they shoot, if they roll 5s, they're going to auto wound. So that gives them some ability to do a little tagging against vehicles. The abilities of this particular detachment don't give them any particular strength against vehicles. There is a piece of war gear that you can give to leaders that will give them a 5-up anti-tank, anti-monster on a 5-up. But they're already wounding a lot of monsters, a lot of tanks on 5s as it is, because they're strength 5. So you got to be over strength 10 for them to be wounding on, or I guess strength 10 or higher for them to be wounding on 6s. So it does give them a little bit. And the lethal is going to give them on the 5s, they hit more effectively. I mean, they don't hit more, but their hits can cause more wounds, if that makes sense. Just kind of a weird add to the army here. I've got my Orkan of the Diviner. He is yet another Cryptek. He is actually a Technomancer. He's like the supreme Technomancer. He's a super time traveling weirdo. So I got him leading a squad with the Gauss Reapers. It's a full 20-man squad. He's got some Crypto Thralls, so that's this big 23-man squad. They can actually all fit inside this Night Scythe. It is an aircraft, and aircraft are total trash in the current meta and the current system. But this is to tack on just a little bit of deep strike into the army, because without this squad, without this ship, aircraft, the only thing that can deep strike is my Void Dragon. I don't have any of the other units that deep strike, and frankly, I've never been a big fan of them. The guys that wear the flesh of their victims, I can't remember what they're called. Flayers. They got the Flare Curse and Flayers, Necron Flayers. And they're just stupidly expensive. For 5 guys, you're spending as much as you would for 3 of these Wraiths. And the Wraiths have a lot more play on the table in general. So the idea is to use the Immortals and their Shoot and Scoot to kind of take the place of some of that deep strike for objective control, or not control, but snagging objectives like behind enemy lines and some of those special abilities there, special requirements there. And then these guys hold back objectives, and these guys drop in and cause some shooting. And then Orcon gets in close and fires off his once a game ability where he triples his strength and triples his attacks. So he's got 6 strength 12 attacks and any successful wound. And most things he's going to be wounding, if you're fighting infantry, most things he's going to be wounding, he'll wound on a 2. Any of those successful wounds are going to be devastating. So that one round of combat from this guy is really gnarly, and he can do a lot of damage. I think it's D3. Yeah, it's D3 wounds per hit, per successful wounding hit. All these technical terms. So every time he gets in there, he hits, he wounds, he ignores their save. And normally his staff's okay, but he doesn't have a lot of attacks. He only has 2 attacks native without that once per game thing. So really, these guys drop in, they throw down some shooting on some of the backfield objective holders and try and push in and grab those objectives. The Tesla cannons on this guy can do a little bit of damage. Doesn't have a lot of shooting. Has sustained. I want to say sustained 2. I can't remember. I didn't look up the Night Scythe on this because you don't shoot with it very often. It usually gets in there, drops guys off, and then blows up. It doesn't live very long. But if it does survive, it can scoot around the board and grab other units. It can hold 1 Necron unit. So any infantry unit. So these guys can go in it. Weirdly, I think these guys can go in it. And these guys. But nothing mounted, no vehicles, none of that stuff. None of these guys back there, they can't fit. So it's got a little bit of utility of moving stuff around. If you really just have to push, if this squad needed to move across the board, you could swing him around and grab him. And he's got a 20 plus movement, so he just can fly across the board. Minimum of 20, and I don't know if there's a maximum. I guess until it hits the edge of the board and it goes off the board. But that is the rough out of the Necron army and the idea behind it. So I'm gonna scoot this guy over here. He's kind of their support. The little family, little mama and papa and their baby robot, stompy robots. But that's it. If you guys like it, please like and subscribe. Make comments. If you think it's the dumbest army you've ever seen, let me know. I love talking about this stuff. I've been playing Warhammer forever, for a long, long time. I'm an old Rogue Trader guy. I got a copy of it around here somewhere. Played it when it first came out. So if you got questions or comments, let me know. Love talking to you guys. Thanks. Have a good night.